This is why most people stay average forever. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They don't stay stuck because they lack opportunity. They stay average because they choose comfort over courage, habit over hunger, and excuses over evolution. You see, mediocrity isn't a punishment. It's a pattern. It's a silent agreement with fear. A lifelong contract signed in hesitation and paid for in regret. Look around. People wake up with alarms they hate, to go to jobs they resent, just to pay bills for lives they barely live. They scroll, they consume, they react, they exist, but they don't live. And then they wonder, why am I still stuck? As if success were a lottery ticket, not a responsibility. But here's the truth. Success was never hidden from you. It's just buried beneath the layers of laziness you call relaxation. Beneath the lies you whisper to protect your ego. Beneath every maybe tomorrow you've ever told yourself. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain. And that's exactly why they never grow. They confuse comfort with peace, distraction with happiness, and movement with progress. But the truth? The truth is brutal. The truth is, growth hurts. Progress feels like chaos. And the path to greatness is paved with discomfort. Thomas Edison failed over 1.000 times before he brought the light. Henry Ford was laughed out of multiple ventures before he revolutionized mobility. Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. And Lincoln? He lost more elections than he won, but still became one of the greatest leaders in history. These weren't special people. They were relentless people. People who didn't fear failure, they feared regret. People who didn't wait for permission, they created momentum. Most people stay average because they're addicted to approval. They wait for someone to say, "You're ready now." But the greats? They declare themselves ready. They look in the mirror and say, "Let's begin. Even if I'm scared. Even if I stumble. Even if I bleed." You want to know why most people never make it? Because they think the cost of success is too high. But they never stop to ask the real question. What's the cost of staying average? What's the price of a life unlived? What's the pain of waking up at 65 realizing you played small? Not because you had to, but because you chose to? And make no mistake, it is a choice. Every time you hit snooze instead of rising. Every time you scroll instead of study. Every time you make an excuse instead of a decision. You are voting for the life you have now. And guess what? You are living the result of those votes. You get what you tolerate. Not what you want. Not what you dream. What you tolerate. That's why most people stay average forever. Because they never raise their standards. They never demand more from themselves. They settle for just enough. Enough money to survive, but not enough to thrive. Enough love to feel less alone, but not enough to be fulfilled. Enough energy to make it through the day, but not enough to chase destiny. They confuse stillness with safety. But in reality, stillness without purpose is decay. Comfort zones are not homes, they are cages. And the longer you stay inside, the smaller your spirit becomes. So if you feel restless, if something inside you is screaming, more, don't ignore it. That's not anxiety. That's your potential, knocking. That's the whisper of the life you were meant to live. But here's the kicker. That life, the one calling you forward, it won't wait forever. It doesn't care how tired you are. It doesn't care how many times you've been hurt. It doesn't care how slow your start has been. It only asks one thing of you. Will you rise? Not in theory, not in your dreams, but in action. Because life doesn't reward the thinkers. It rewards the doers. And if you want to stop being average, you have to stop acting like everyone else. Everyone else is distracted. Everyone else is bitter. Everyone else is waiting for the weekend, the summer, the perfect moment. But the successful? They build while others scroll. They read while others binge. They move while others complain. And they win, not because they're better, but because they're consistent. They didn't wait to feel motivated. They built discipline. And discipline always outlasts motivation. This is the beginning. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when life slows down. Because life doesn't slow down. It speeds up, and it leaves behind those who hesitate. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop watching others live your dream? Are you ready to stop wishing and start working? Because the life you want doesn't arrive It's carved out of sacrifice, out of sweat, out of silence. And average? It's not an insult. It's a warning. A warning that time will not wait. That someday will become never. That you either build your dream, or you'll spend your life building someone else's. So get up, look in the mirror, and choose. Because most people stay average forever. Not because they have to, but because they never decide to be anything else. It always begins with one lie. I'll do it later. Later becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And before you know it, you've lived an entire life at half volume. Never too loud to disturb the world. Never too quiet to be forgotten. But here's the truth. Greatness has a deadline. And it's counting down every second. The people you admire, they're not smarter than you. They're not luckier. They're just the ones who got tired of their own excuses. They felt the weight of potential pressing on their soul. And they chose not to ignore it. You see, clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from movement, from action, from doing things before you're ready and trusting that you'll grow in the process. When Edison was crafting the light bulb, he didn't wait until he had the perfect plan. He failed again and again, but each failure gave him feedback. Each mistake carved the path forward. That's what most people miss. They think failure is the enemy. But it's not. Failure is the price of admission to greatness. It's not there to stop you, it's there to test you. To see if your dream is real or just a fantasy you flirt with when you're bored. Most people don't stay average because they fail once. They stay average because they fear failing again. They let the fear of embarrassment outweigh the joy of progress. They let the opinions of people who don't even matter define the limits of their life. But listen, no one remembers the critic. No one builds statues of the doubter. History honors the bold, the builders, the ones who stood up when it was easier to sit down. Spoke up when it was safer to stay quiet. Kept moving when everything around them screamed, quit. And that is what separates the few from the many. The many want change. The few become change. The many hope for opportunity. The few create it. The many wish for motivation. The few build habits. And while most are trying to look successful, the few are becoming it. Because becoming is messy. It's lonely. It's waking up at 5 a.m. when everyone else is asleep. It's sacrificing weekends, missing parties, saying no to comfort so you can say yes to purpose. No applause. No instant reward. Just grit, discipline, vision. And that vision, that burning, clear picture of the life you know is possible. It's the only fuel that never runs out. Most people give up not because it's too hard, but because they forget why they started. They lose sight of the vision. They let the noise of the world drown out the voice within. They forget that everything great, every empire, every invention, every legacy, started with a decision, not a guarantee, not a plan, a decision. To begin, to build, to believe, even when no one else did. Do you know what average people fear the most? Isolation. Not being understood, not being validated, not being accepted. But here's the paradox. To rise above average, you must walk a lonely path. Because most people won't come with you. They'll question your ambition, mock your discipline, call your passion obsession. They'll say things like, "You've changed." And they'll be right. You are changing. From a follower into a leader. From a dreamer into a doer. From a consumer into a creator. So don't fear walking alone. Fear waking up years from now surrounded by people who settled, while you had the courage to evolve. That's the real cost of staying average. Wasting your best years proving nothing to people who have no idea what you're capable of. Listen to me. Your life is your message. And every day you write a new sentence. Will it be forgettable? Or will it be a story that sparks someone else to rise? Most people sleepwalk through life waiting for the world to give them permission to be great. But the world doesn't give you permission, it responds to your energy. It reflects your standards. It mirrors your actions. So if you don't like what life is showing you, change what you're showing life. Upgrade your inputs, who you follow, what you consume, how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Because that voice, your inner voice, is either your greatest coach or your worst enemy. And most people, they let their voice become their jailer, telling them they're not ready, not worthy, not smart enough, not young enough, not old enough. All lies. crafted not by truth, but by fear. So here's your breakthrough. You don't have to believe everything you think. Thoughts are not commands. They are invitations, and you choose which ones you accept. Most people stay average forever because they never learn to lead their own mind. They let emotion make their decisions. They let the weather decide their discipline. They let doubt choose their destiny. But not you. Because you didn't come this far to stop here. You didn't survive the pain just to stay safe. You didn't hear this message by accident. This is your reminder, your awakening, your spark, that the dream still lives, that the door is still open, that the future is still unwritten, and you hold the pen. So write boldly, write fiercely, write like someone who refuses to die with their best work still inside. Because average is not your destiny. It's just the place you leave. When you finally remember who you are, there's a fire inside you that's been burning quietly for years. Maybe it started as a flicker, a feeling that you were meant for more, that you weren't born just to pay bills, meet deadlines, nod politely, and die quietly. But every time you tried to rise, life pushed back. You lost something. Someone doubted you. You doubted yourself. And so you dimmed your light a little more each year, until the glow became a shadow. That's how average survives, in the silence of suppressed potential. But listen closely. You were not built to be average. You were built to break ceilings, to rewrite stories, to shake the ground with the sound of your rise. The world won't hand you your greatness. You must take it, not by force, but by faith. Not by noise, but by consistency. Not by waiting, but by walking straight into the unknown. Abraham Lincoln didn't wait for the nation to be ready. He stood tall when the country was broken. He led when others argued. He suffered, lost, bled, but never folded. Because that's what leadership is. It's not titles. It's not applause. It's the quiet resolve to do what others won't, so one day, others can. And if you want to lead your own life, you must develop the same courage. The courage to be misunderstood, to be mocked, to be doubted. Most people fear criticism so deeply that they stay small just to avoid being seen. But the spotlight was never the enemy. Your fear was. Because here's the truth that shakes every excuse to its knees. If you can breathe, you can build. If you can think, you can change. If your heart is still beating, then it's not too late. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too behind. Those are lies average tells you when it sees you climbing. And yes, the climb is hard. You'll lose things, comfort, familiarity, even people. Because elevation demands separation. You cannot rise and cling to the ground. You cannot fly and fear the fall. So ask yourself, what are you holding onto that's keeping you average? What belief? What habit? What story? Burn it, all of it. Because the future you deserve is blocked by the person you've settled to be. Do you know what separates winners from wishers? Decisions. Not dreams. Not luck. Not timing. Decisions. The decision to show up even when you're tired. To speak up even when you're scared. To keep going even when the world says stop. Most people stay average because they only act when it's easy. But the successful? They act especially when it's hard. Because they know every struggle is shaping them. Every storm is sculpting their strength. Every delay is deepening their patience. And every rejection is refining their focus. They don't avoid pain, they use it. Just like coal becomes a diamond under pressure. You will become unbreakable through resistance. But only if you stay the course. Too many quit at 40%, when the magic lives beyond 90. Because the miracle isn't in the idea. It's in the follow-through. The grind. The days you don't post about. The wins that no one claps for. But that's what makes it real. The private battles. The invisible progress. The nights where you cry. Then wipe your face and keep building. That's where greatness is born. And that's why average can't hold it, because average doesn't have the stomach for that kind of solitude. It wants the crown, but not the crucifix. It wants the victory, but not the valley. It wants the stage, but not the silence that precedes it. But if you can learn to love the silence, the long nights, the invisible seeds you're planting, then one day, when the crowd gathers, when the world finally notices, you'll smile, not because they finally see you, but because you never needed them to. You already knew who you were. You already knew what you carried. You already knew that staying average was never an option. Because your spirit was never built for smallness. And that's the ultimate rebellion. To rise, without applause, without permission, without validation, to build something from nothing. To go from being unseen to undeniable. And you don't do that by wishing. You do it by working. By deciding. By bleeding belief into every step, even the steps that make no sense yet. Because faith doesn't ask for clarity. It asks for commitment. And if you can give that, if you can keep showing up, even when your knees shake, then the world has no choice but to open. Not because it wants to, but because it respects those who refuse to quit. You can bend the world around your will, but only if your will is stronger than your wounds. Only if your vision is clearer than your fears. Only if you live by design, not by default. And most people? They don't. They wake up to notifications, not intentions. They chase dopamine, not destiny. They seek comfort, not character. That's why they stay average. But not you. Not anymore. Because something inside you is rising. A memory of who you were before the world told you who to be. A spark, a roar, a knowing that this life you've settled for is not the end. It's the edge. And beyond it, everything you were born for. You can feel it, can't you? The crackling tension between the life you're living and the life that's still calling. It's not in some far-off future. It's not locked behind luck or privilege. It's here, right now, buried beneath every small choice you make. See, most people want a breakthrough, but they never build the pressure. They want the flood, but they never open the dam. They wait for a divine sign, some cosmic green light, when all along, it's been their own foot pressing the brake. But now you know. It was never the world that held you back. It was never the economy, the critics, or the conditions. It was always the internal thermostat. The one set to average and never adjusted. And here's what no one tells you. You don't rise by motivation. You rise by identity. By becoming the kind of person who refuses to settle. Who wakes up every morning and says, "This is not who I'm staying. I am not finished. I am not done growing." Because the moment you decide to raise your standard, everything shifts. Your relationships recalibrate. Your habits evolve. Your thoughts become soldiers, not drifters. And the gravity of the average world starts to loosen its grip. Most people think it's a mountain they must climb. But the real climb is internal. It's the rewiring of belief. The demolition of self-imposed ceilings. The excavation of courage from beneath decades of doubt. Because if you want to change your outer world, you must first confront the architecture of your inner one. Rebuild the walls. Clear the dust. Speak life into the corners you've abandoned. Most people never do this. They decorate the prison. Make peace with the cage. They call it realistic. But really, it's just resignation with a pretty face. Not you. Not anymore. Because something awakened in you. A deeper truth. That average is not safety, it's decay. That stillness is not peace, it's paralysis. That comfort is not calm, it's camouflage for fear. And once you've seen that truth, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to numbing out with distractions. Smiling politely while your dreams die in the background. You can't shrink anymore just to make others feel bigger. No. From this point forward, you walk different. Not arrogant, anchored. Not loud, lethal. Not rushed, relentless. You carry your mission like a flame through the darkness. And though the winds of doubt may try to extinguish it, you protect it with every breath. Because that flame is not just yours. It's the hope of everyone watching. Wondering if they, too, can rise. You show them what's possible. Not by shouting, but by doing. By building. By evolving. By refusing to accept a life that doesn't match the size of your spirit. And here's the final truth. You don't have to do this for applause. You don't have to go viral. You don't have to be known by millions. You only have to be known by one person. Yourself. Can you look in the mirror and say, "I kept the promise. I didn't fold. I gave it everything. I lived awake." Because in the end, success is not a number. It's a frequency. It's the vibration of someone who chose to live fully, not conveniently. And most people stay average forever. Because they never have that conversation with themselves. They fear it. They run from it. They fill the silence so they never have to hear the sound of their own calling. But you leaned in, you listened, and now, you move. So take the first step. Then another, and another. Not for motivation, not for likes, but because this is who you are now. You are the few, the defiant, the builders of a life forged in fire. And while the rest stay asleep, you rise.